I'm excited about what's going to happen now because, go ahead and use this one. Because how many of you remember what Kayla did here a few months ago? Everybody remembers, right? Well, it's been far too long since she's been back, since she's been able to be back with us to give us a little report of what went on over there. And so she talked to me 3 weeks ago about when we could do a report. Well, we wanted to make sure that we didn't do it over Labor Day weekend when we had a number of folks that might not be able to be here. So today is the day, and she's excited. And we've got pictures, and she's got memories. And so that being said, I'd like to welcome Kayla back to share with us her memories, okay? So here we go. And don't worry about time. Just talk, okay? And you're going to need that. Or do you want to stand there? Okay, all right.
All right, so you're going to get 2 sermons today, so don't let me preach too long. Just tell me to stop, because I could really talk about this all day. So for those of you who aren't regulars here, my name is Kayla Whittaker, and in May, at the end of May, I took a trip to Bulgaria to return to a place that I had been on a study abroad. And we went there for what we call the Raise of Hope for Bulgaria project, in which 50% of the funds that we raised were designed to help the Roma or Gypsy community there, who really have a third world community. And the other 50% went to helping build the Seventh-day Adventist Church in a town that I got to be in and live in. So bear with me. I'm going to try to kind of go through the sequence of events that I've experienced the last few years, because I really think that that's going to be the best testimony of how God can use you if you ask and if you're willing. And he really has blessed me with his love in, unexpected ways that were wildly profound. So bear with me, because this is my personal testimony kind of woven with the story of the project. So some of it's stuff I've not even shared with my family before. So it's near and dear to my heart, and I hope that it's a blessing that everybody can see how God works. So I'm going to be very honest and blunt and vulnerable. So I hope you can grasp what I'm trying to tell you. And, while this is my personal journey in faith to Christ, and I do say it's a journey to Christ, because we may not ever get to fully understand how awesome God's love is until we get to be with him again one day. So, but I do know that my role is very minuscule in God's overall plan, and I'm just honored to be a part of the journey and his love to share with others. So, God always placed love in my heart for other people. If you know me, I'm a people person. I'm going to talk to a wall. If it could talk back, that's me. So, there's that. I always had a desire to smile and make other people laugh, and my grandmother's here today. I call her Nanny. And what's really interesting is she would know this very well, this story of when I was a small kid. I would get up on the fireplace, and I'd get dressed in her ball gowns and put on red lipstick and her high heels that I obviously could not fit into because I was only about 5. And I would sing Shania Twain, Man, I Feel Like a Woman. And my grandfather would sit there, Papa, and he would say, sing on, girl, sing loud. And it made me so happy because he would smile back, and, I wish he was still here. I always had an extreme fascination with other cultures. Being a people person, I don't care where you're from, I just want to know your story. And so it's funny, my mom, when I was little, I wanted to be a Mexican princess because, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl wanted it all, so I desired to be a Mexican princess. And it's funny because we would eat at De La Paz weekly. They were family to us, and it's funny because they would have those really nice Mexican dresses hanging on the wall, and I thought, they sound so pretty when they talk. Mom, I want to learn to speak Spanish. So she bought me these cheap tapes, and I learned words like car and yes, and that was about the extent of it. So I didn't get to fulfill that dream, but that's okay. So while I'm a big people person, I also had a very tender heart, and I had a lot of struggles. From a young age, I was diagnosed with diabetes, and whether many people know it or not, that really does something to your self-worth when you struggle with your health. So I battled depression and issues with weight and food and being bullied in school. people would say, I can't play with you. I don't want to get that. And I'd have to be like, well, you can't get it. It was a very hard concept for a kid to feel different. And while I was a big people person, I wanted to be accepted and prove my worth more than anything. And so it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out in this project, because whether those people know it or not, they saved my life too. And they really gave back, knowing people that feel hopeless and don't feel their self-worth. When you see and can relate to that in other people, it's a blessing to say, I feel your pain. I don't know your story the way you know it, but I feel your pain. And someone loves you, and you're going to learn that one day. And I'm going to try to show it in my life. So yeah, I even struggled in my faith for many years. Oh, thank you. We all knew this was going to happen, so bear with me, and I'll try to get through the 100 slides that I need to show. I spent much of my life trying to prove my worth to other people, not realizing that some 2,000 years ago, God had proved that I was worth it on the cross. And, I'd always known that I had a wonderful family and church family, and I knew these things, I believed them, but so often we hold ourselves back from God's love. I make mistakes daily, I don't even want to say them all because it would be embarrassing, right? But I'll just say that it's not just then that he saved us. He left us with a lasting love, and he's shown us the way, and that saves our lives daily. And if we can share that with other people, it is such a blessing to see and truly understand that God is love, and that love, just to give it, and that's all we have to do. And that feeling that it brings you when you finally get that, I think is so rewarding. I think that's the biggest reward that Christ has to give us, is that it doesn't matter how you feel about yourself, because guess what? God has proven your worth because we're his. So I wanted to read this first verse. We're all very familiar with it. I'm sure if you've heard, what does true love mean? Well, Corinthians 1:13, 4-8 says, love is, I want you to replace the word with God for a second. And I know a lot of you have heard this before, but I just want to read this and replace every word, every time the word love comes up with God, and see if this isn't maybe some of the experience that you guys have learned. God is patient. God is kind. God does not envy. He does not boast. He is not proud. He's not rude, and he's not self-seeking. He is not easily angered, and he keeps no record of wrongs. He does not delight in evil, but rejoices in the truth. He always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always preserves. God never fails. But where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. But God doesn't. He lives, and I hope that that message can be relayed to our friends in Bulgaria, and I'm going to get to that. I really came to that realization that God is love and what that meant when I was on a hilltop in Eastern Europe, where my broken young heart really became a woman. It all started, and I think this is on. Hopefully we can. It's not clicking, so bear with me. So if we can go to the next slide. I don't know what's going on with my little utensil here. Oh, boom, there you go. Gotta love technology. Okay, so it all started for me when I was in college. My first year, I was like, well, I've always wanted to be a nurse and help people. But before I settle down and get married to this guy that, I'm now about to be 20, I need to probably do something with my life before I settle down and get married. I had it all planned out, at 20 years old. And I said, well, I should do a study abroad before I start nursing school. So I started looking into it and finding out, well, darn, every American who is culture hungry has already gotten all of their bids into London and Ireland and Paris. And What's left? Bulgaria. Okay, what do I know about that? Nothing. Great. Okay, so I was like, well, I'm not gonna be able to go to a place that I don't speak English. I'm a talker, so I need to speak English because that's really all I know. So I started looking at all of the English-speaking schools, and it was the only school that said American University in Bulgaria. So I was like, okay, they have English classes, everyone will be able to speak it, I won't feel so away from home that I'm not comfortable. So I decided to raise some funds, and I talked to my mom about it, and I was like, I'm gonna do this. So I signed up, everything ended up happening last second to work out. My church helped me buy the plane ticket because we thought, we could probably do something while I was over there, and I could probably get Bibles and try to talk to people when I was there. So it all worked out last second perfectly. God didn't fail. 2 days before I was supposed to be on a plane and at orientation, all of my paperwork came through, and we were able to buy the ticket that day. So it was really remarkable how things played out. But if I went into every detail, I'd be here for hours. So in order to move on, go to the next slide. So when I first get to Bulgaria, I meet these 2 Bulgarian men with my name written on it, and they're supposed to take me to the American University in Bulgaria. And they're all, and I'm like, like, come again, English, American. And they're like, okay, great. So I get in this taxi, Hot Wheel size taxi, and we're weaving in and out of these mountains and going through broken down villages, and it's 1 a.m, and I think, okay, this is 60 kilometers, we should be there in an hour. Well, about 2 hours later, I'm going through like fields and villages, like I said, and thinking, I've made the biggest mistake of my life. I've gotten on a plane, I've made all these promises that I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna bring God with me, and I've left a 4-year relationship behind, and I gotta be here until Christmas. So scared. So going through Bulgaria, and I finally get to the American University, I'm like, okay, I can deal. Mountain view, good bedroom, I'll take it. So I start making friends at school. This is the American University in Bulgaria, and that's the ex-USSR headquarters in Bulgaria, where we went to school, actually. So I meet a girl named Kayla, and she's from Arkansas, and so she kind of has a draw, and she's like, hey, I know that you're Christian, I heard. And I was like, yeah, I am. Like, praise God, I actually met a Christian friend. And what do you know? Her name's Kayla. Because no one that is American that was there was really Christian. And in Bulgaria, if you know Eastern Europe, they've been by the Ottoman Empire for 500 years. They were forced to be Muslim. Many of them, the history in Eastern Europe is very intricate and unique. And then, after the Ottoman Empire fell, they had a short king and queen for maybe a couple hundred years, and then, of course, communism took over. So religion and God was not implemented into their culture. So I clung to Kayla, and she said, hey, you should come to a Bible study with me. My professor is Christian, and his wife and him do a Bible study every Sunday night. And I was thinking, well, I've gotten over here, and I can't find the Seventh-day Adventist church. I need that connection with God, so I'll go. So I find out, okay, well, how am I going to give back? That's why I came over to Bulgaria. I knew that there was opportunity. So I start looking around, and I meet this group of people, and Lisa and his wife, and I find out about these opportunities like the BCC Club, the Better Community Club, and I get to go to an orphanage and do community service, and there's other ways that I could give back since I couldn't help the church at that time. And we gave Bibles and visited Lazar, a little boy who he couldn't speak any English, and his sister and him had been abandoned in their cribs as babies, and just attention starved. And he was a little boy that he saw me, he'd look in his eyes and they'd sparkle, and he'd run up and I'd give him a hug, and he wouldn't leave my side. And every Saturday he could depend on that. So it was remarkable. I campaigned with friends and met little girls like Callie in the Roma community through Bill and Lisa. And I remember the moment that I met some of these people out on the street and thinking, people would shoo them away and curse at them and throw them to the wayside, and they're just trying to get food. Like, what are my problems? Because at the time, my 4-year relationship had failed because basically our choices in life were different, and I was heartbroken. I was absolutely devastated and alone, and I turned to the world for a good 2 weeks there, and I thought, you know, your church has helped you come over here, and what are you doing? Like, and so I was like, you know what, I'm going to talk to Bill and Lisa. They work with the Roma people, and that's real problems. So I went, and I remember standing up on this hillside looking at the houses that they had and looking at the children play in the only water source. Often babies have to cart 5 gallons up and down a hillside to help their mothers who are just trying to keep after their 5 or 6 children that most of them have been impregnated through rape when they've been sold into slavery. So I thought, this is the real problem. My problems, God's going to show me the way. But right now, I can't leave this place until I know that these people feel love, because I know what it's like to feel hopeless and like your worth is down, and that's only an ounce. And I've been so blessed in other ways. I can't imagine having everything else stripped from me. So I couldn't stop thinking about these little boys like Sergey and the kids that I like to call the Rugrats, because they're hilarious, and despite all their problems, they found happiness when they were with each other, because that was the only thing that they could understand, was that we don't have anything, but we have each other. So, you know, little girls like Callie, like I said, I couldn't get off my mind, so I came back and was really trying to figure out what can we do. But I could never figure it out. I'd always wanted to start a charity one day, but I was like, would this be it? Like, I don't know if that's my calling. Like, I'm so far away now, being back in America. And I had met Thomas, who's been to church here a few times, and finally, someone to travel with. You know, that was one thing I didn't have in a prior relationship, is someone who wanted the same things out of life, and someone who's willing to go back and do that. Maybe we could go to Bulgaria. So we decided, yeah, we want to do that. We're going to try to raise money. So my mom was like, well, why don't we try to do something again while you're over there, you know, and see if you can't reconnect. And I was like, yeah, I plan on that. So I reached out to Bill and Lisa, and my mom, once we got the okay that, yeah, you can come and visit us when you come back, she got on the Seventh-day Adventist website, and she reads this story. And it's called Growing Pains. And it's talking about them trying to build a Seventh-day Adventist church in Bulgaria, and that the Roma people, and this is what is hard for me to talk about, that they had really been wanting to come to their church, but that they could not be accepted because there was so little space. And so I could only imagine wanting to finally have God, and then having the church say, we want to accept you, but we can't. We don't have room for you. And it's funny, because as she was reading the story, she's like, Kayla, I have chill bumps. And I want to bring to your attention, I'm not sure how well it'll show up, but on this, you can read on the very bottom part, it says, part of this quarter's 13th Sabbath offering will help build a church for the Romani in the city of Blagoevgrad, Bulgaria. And that's where I went to school, and that's where I had been trying to help. And to me, it was just like, this is it. This is your chance to do the work. You were placed there so unexpectedly, but with a cause, because you're coming back, and I'm laying it out for you. It was so clear that that's what needed to happen. And I'd never felt that sort of clear message before in my life. So I said, okay, God, like, this is what's going to happen. So I called my friend Larry in the back there, and I was like, you got to help me with a website. I want to get this campaign going and raise money and thousands of dollars, hopefully, and maybe we can help build this church and help the Roma people. And it's so funny how what I thought was going to be 2 separate causes ended up working together. So we built a website, and we built Facebook and banners and T-shirts, and anybody that said hello to me in the next probably 8 months, I was like, hey, let me tell you about my project. And you guys heard it every week. So I really appreciate the support. It was awesome. But it was an amazing story that transpired, because shortly after doing that, we were up to almost like 300 likes on Facebook, and I had people telling me, this is how you set up a nonprofit. I had Dr. Whittaker, which some of you may know. Him and his family helped sponsor me by sending me to GYC, and I was able to make connections with people who said, there's not a lot of work going on in Bulgaria right now. Like, this has got to be something from God, because there's not a lot of opportunity to go there anymore. And specifically, I worked with a girl from One Heart Bulgaria who does orphanages in Bulgaria, and she said, you know that no one has really done anything in that city, so this has to be a blessing, and God's using you. And I felt a sense of encouragement. No matter where I went, I was getting positive things, and it was just laying into place for me so clearly. And I thought, I've never had a purpose like this before, to feel like this is my purpose. And the way that it was laid out, I can't begin to describe all the little things that fell into place for this to take off. And it's been truly amazing to watch. Let's see if we can't. So we did the Hope Message with Gail. We raised money and did a yard sale. Thousands of donations probably came in just from talking to people out on the street, or someone knowing someone that was Bulgarian and leaving us money. We did contests at another job that I had where people bought raffle tickets, and everybody got excited, and that was truly exhilarating. People left me euros, so they said, when we're over there, we know you're raising all this money, and we're going to give to that. But we want you to have this money so that you can, get to and from with taxis and stuff. And the love and support, it was there. And while it was exhausting, because I was working probably 50 hours a week in full-time school and doing this, there was a sense of encouragement, and I knew that it wasn't about me, and it really kept me going. So when we finally get to go in May, excited as a little kid, I got to meet Eva, and I cannot remember his name nor pronounce it, but he is the assistant treasurer of the Union of Bulgarian Churches. She was my contact for helping me get funds put into the account in Bulgaria for their church. We got to go and see the Roma community again. We got to visit with these little children that were learning in the education programs that we help support over there. They watch off of this little bitty laptop, and I say laptop, and it's like this big, and all the kids learn there. And it was really amazing, because when I first heard that they were doing this, no one was coming, and we thought, well, how are they going to ever be invested in their education? And finally, kids have started showing up, and they're like, Kayla, it's amazing. Their behavior it's a world of difference. Like, they feel like they have a place to come now. So it was amazing to see what raising money over the last few years have been able to do for some of these children, and it could be their ticket out of a really hopeless situation. So that is the education center in town of Blagoevgrad. And this is us with some of the small children that were playing outside, flexing his muscles, so I had to do it back. Of course, then we both had to do it for a cute picture. And then they invited us to come into their town. And only a couple of the Roma people know what it is that we're doing there. And rightfully so, we don't want them to feel like, oh, you're a charity case. We want them to feel that desire to be with God and it come from within. So this is kind of the hillside where I stood when that really hit me, because you're on this hilltop in this third world community, and they're sitting in shacks, and they're overlooking this beautiful view of mountains and what they would consider a king's home. And they're on the top of the hill, but yet they're looking down at people who've pushed them outside. So it's really amazing to see that perspective and the type of hopelessness you must feel when that's going on. So Callie, the little girl I talked about earlier with the little doll, I believe that this is her. I wasn't able to ask. I was told Callie before that might have been a nickname, but I'm pretty sure this is the same little girl. And it was funny because the first time I had seen her, but I'd never got to interact with her. And when I came back this time, it was like an indescribable bond. She came up to me, and she stared at me from the moment I came in. And we had a trail of kids watching us, but I could see her standing back and watching at me. And I just thought to myself, like, oh, this is meant to be. Like, I'd never got to fully meet her and have a conversation. And that little face just, when you go there and you think, I don't want to leave you here because I know what you're dealing with. It was truly incredible. She kept jumping off of that pile of clothes that's actually a house and saying, look at me, big sister, look at me. And she kept saying, you're my friend. And I just thought, oh, God. what I can leave you with today is telling you that God is your friend. And that's all you can do at those situations until you're able to really do the work there. So this is Rumiani. Rumiani, interesting quick story, so I can try to wrap up to my big message here is that Rumiani was actually sold twice by her own mother in order to make it. The first she did conceive a child with, and because there's children in the room, let's just say it wasn't a willing conception on her first child, and then she would have 4 more because they don't really have access to birth control as well, by someone that does really love her and works really hard to support her. So I'm glad for her. She's actually struggled with having breast cancer before, but doctors didn't want to take her because she was Roma. And so Lisa and Bill have to go with her to doctor visits for her to even be seen most of the time. And as you can't tell there, she's thin there, but in person, she's really, really thin. They struggle to eat. A few years ago, I had an email saying, like urgent prayer request from Bill saying we need to pray because it's come a blizzard over here in the mountains, and many of the Roma are having to huddle together to survive. So please keep them in their prayer. Many of the children are getting sick. So it's never escaped me, and I don't want it to, because it's been the drive in my life to know that, you know, whatever we're going through, God has a plan, and He's going to protect you, and He's going to find someone to take care of you. And if I can be that for them, I hope He uses me until I can't do it anymore. So just a few of the pictures with the children there, some of Rumiani's children, and just the community in general. And Thomas playing with little Sneji, or Callie is her nickname. Sneji actually means snowflake. I don't know, some of the names are crazy, but it's an amazing thing to see that these people who are just trying to survive day to day, that there's still a longing for acceptance and a longevity relationship of something greater. And I don't think that they even realize it, but God's providing for them, and He's making people like Rumiani a voice for change in their community. So that's some of the pictures there, and I'm going to quickly flip through, unfortunately, to try to wrap it up as quickly as I can. But these 2 properties are the properties of the choices that the new church has, and I think they've decided on this one because it's much larger and it's right outside of their community, so it'd make the Roma feel safe that they can go there to worship. And we got to go to their church, and that is Pastor Stefan that was on the website. And that actually says in Bulgarian, it says Church and Adventist of Seventh Day. And then that's us with him and his wife. There, you can't tell it here, but there's pictures of all the baptisms that haven't happened, most of them Roma, or of Roma descent. You can tell that the pastor, I believe, is partially Roma as well. And this is their church. It is a very small area. That's where the choir sits. That is actually the children's room where there's big chairs, so any of the small kids, they don't have anywhere to sit. There's no air conditioning in that back room, so it makes it a very unpleasant place to come. So there's definitely a need for this new church. This is one of the sites that the Roma were given for free to worship in. So they're going to have to do a lot of reconstruction, so there's still a lot of need for aid there, because if they don't have a place to come, and if it's not safe, as you can tell, there's a lot of health risks with this, mold and stuff growing on the wall, then there's no point. You know, we have to provide for people who need help. It's one thing to put kind of like a Band-Aid on a bad situation, but I know that if you don't provide that relief, you can't get to their heart. They have to have their needs met so that we can tell them, okay, we're helping you, but here's what's going to help you long term, and that's Jesus Christ. So it's not all sadness there. There are a lot of beautiful places. We actually got to go to a town called Kvachovica, which has all these beautiful wooden doors that have locks, and it looks like the secret garden there. So it is a beautiful place, but there's still a lot of work to be done in Bulgaria, and I think that this project is the perfect opportunity to really show that God can use you if you're willing. And you know, it's amazing to see what He's done in my own life, but also what He's able to do with the Roma people and the people of Bulgaria. So I want to just say that, you know, I've always searched for faith, hope, and love in my life and to know my purpose. But I know that like Corinthians 1, 13 and 13, it says, and now these three remain, faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these is love. And I just want to say that, you know, through this project, I really feel like God can use us and prepare us for the work that he has intended. And we mustn't separate ourselves from him. The devil often makes us feel like we should participate in the world and places temptation in our hearts so that we feel separate and unworthy of God's love. But look at my own story and the Roma, and what is your area of struggle? And I just want to say to this, you can surround yourself with good people, but as Proverbs 18:24 says, a man of many companies may come to ruin, but there is a friend who sticks closer than the brother, and that's Christ. And we have to come together as brothers and sisters in Christ and help those in need. And I just ask that we take this opportunity to do the work that God's presented to us. And I think that it's going to be a journey, but that's what life is about, is taking those opportunities to make our life count and to help one another when we're in need. We're only here for a short while, but love is the goal. And let's share that goal together and with Christ. So thank you for your support. We're going to hopefully get a lot of these pictures up on the website, and I'm sure that in the next couple of years we're going to try to raise funds to where we can go back again. But I just want to say that I am so grateful for my church family and all the family that I have being supportive, because not only did it give a purpose in my life and really helped me know that we're all worthy of God's love, and we have to be willing to share that with others. So thank you for the support, and I hope that we can reach that goal.